Well, you know, I was going to say something about Rex because, you know, Rex was supposed to originally be here, but he got pulled into a public ed hearing this morning, and so we had to do some scheduling, tag team trade-off stuff, and so I'm here, and then he had to pick up my meeting this afternoon with some of the governor's staff, and so, you know, it's a cruel world, I guess. But, you know, I guess start with a little joke. Why did the Jedi cross the road? To get to the dark side. I saw a T-shirt the other day that if this was a more appropriate venue, and I would have bought the shirt, I guess, but it said something to the effect of, I had friends on that Death Star. But anyway, now as Danny said, I mean, I am at the coordinating board, and you know, I really and truly hope that all of us do a good job of responding and communicating and facilitating and all those kind of things. You know, I often say that our middle name is coordinating, and that's the way I try to look at my job and all that kind of stuff. And so if you do have questions or concerns, you know, I always will engage in the conversation, but then at some point it's the law is the law, and that's pretty much where our jobs are and what we do. But anyway, with that said, the new strategic plan, there was a committee put together of educators, and by the way, I mean, you know, if y'all have questions along the way, just stop me, and it's a small group. We can talk, and you know, if you want to throw anything, just wait till the next time you see Rex, and throw stuff at Rex. But anyway, there was a group of educators that put this together, and it was really and truly a conversation about what is it going to take to make Texas successful in the future. And so they spent a considerable amount of time and effort into developing the plan. And then the name of the plan, 60 by 30 TX, I think shows the driving focus of the plan and what it's going to take for Texas to be robust and dynamic in the year 2030, which also happens to be the year I'm planning on retiring. But as you can see, the slide says by 2030, at least 60% of Texans aged 25 to 34 will have a certificate or degree. You know, might point out that certificates are included in the plan. You know, some states don't value certificates, but we're looking at short-term credentials, and so I think that's an important thing to point out. This slide talks about that the changing U.S. workforce and the labor needs of the country, and this is done by Georgetown University, and it says that by the year 2020, 59% of the jobs in Texas will require this level of education. Currently, we're at 38%. We've got a lot of work to do, and it's collectively got to be a statewide effort, and kind of what I said earlier about our middle name is coordinating. We've got to play a role in that, and it's a partnership. I did this presentation at a college, I don't remember, back in February or so, and they said, you know, Gary's going to tell us what Austin's mandating or what the state's mandating. And I go, you know, this really isn't a mandate. This is a conversation that we have to collaboratively all participate in if we're going to be successful. And you know, the reason I point out my retirement year is because I hope that there's educated folks behind me that can help drive the economy and sustain my retirement is my real point in emphasizing that. But these first few slides I added to this presentation are not part of the plan, but I think you can see that it starts shaping the input for the plan. And I know y'all have probably all seen these slides or these presentations from, it's all over the national media. Many of you introduced yourself as being involved in career and technical education. There's lots of literature out there, but our economy has changed significantly. And back in 1973, a high school education could get you a job and get you a career, and you were okay. And that's no longer true in today's economy and today's workforce. And you know, when we began the Industrial Revolution, and it's probably not correct to say began, but about the 1900s, whenever we really started building factories and mass production and all that kind of stuff, I bet there wasn't even an application process. I bet if you could lift 100 pounds and work 12 hours a day or whatever it was, you got a job, and that's what drove the economy. After World War II, we saw education, the need for education really begin to grow. Then in the 60s, we really had the birth of the community colleges in the nation. And then today, we've got to this transition point to where high school alone won't do it for you. You have to have some type of higher ed credential to get a sustainable, livable wage. This graphic, sometimes referred to as a pipeline, and I think it's perhaps misspeaking to refer to the students as a pipeline, but this graphic tries to convey a whole lot of information. This is the 2004 cohort of 8th grade students, and that basically, if for every 100 students, I have to take my glasses off to do this. 68 of them graduated from a public high school. Now, there could be, I'm going to go ahead and use the word leakage, but there could be some students who went to private high schools. There could be some students that moved out of state. And so, you know, it's not that we lost 32%, we just can't find 32%. But we did lose a percentage of them, okay? Now, 54% or 54 of that 68 enrolled in higher education. You know, some of them could be out of state. We can't find those. But I think that it's important to stop right here and talk that if we're going to do 60 by 30 TX, you know, 54 of every 100 8th graders cannot, you know, you can't start with 54 and get 60 out. Does that make sense? And then you can see that 20 received a higher education degree or certificate. Then down at the bottom it says, of these 20, 1 received a certificate, 4 an associate degree, and 15 a bachelor's degree or higher. Then on the left side is the graduation rate by gender, and I can't see on the screen. Yeah, the numbers are pretty close to balanced, but then the male, female, of the cohort itself. But then you can start seeing the male, female graduated from high school, male, female enrolled in higher education, and then the male, female received a degree or certificate. And then on the other side, you can see the, I'm brain dead, the economically disadvantaged, and you can see the trend there. You know, the male-female gender issue and the economically disadvantaged, when you look at economically disadvantaged males, it's very problematic. And then to speak from a bit of personal experience, I have 2 boys, and you know, knock on wood, we're fortunate we're not economically disadvantaged. But my 2 boys are now 21, and the older one will be 23 next month. And a few years ago, when I was trying to get them out of high school, it was a task. It was an accomplishment. And both of my boys were minimalists in high schools. They did the absolute minimum amount of work they could. But that's good, because my boys helped pull up the curve. And you know, I used to tell them, and I still tell them this a little bit, but I go, you know, the state of Texas pays me to make decisions for 725,002 students. You know, the 725,000 I don't know a whole lot about personally, but the two of you I know personally, and I'll do it for free. And you know, and they know I tell these stories. I mean, you know, so you can go ahead and, you know, today the 22-year-old, Don, for you, you know this, but he completed an associate's degree at Brookhaven as an automotive mechanic, specialized in diesel technology, and he's a diesel mechanic for AutoNation Ford, and they're paying him about $30 an hour. And from what I understand, on June 21st, I have to stop and think of his birthday. No, June 15th is his birthday. He'll have 5 years service at AutoNation Ford, and he gets like a $4 or $5 raise. And so, you know, I still show him some of those bills of where I paid for college and bought the first $10,000 worth of Snap-on tools, and he hadn't paid anything back. Colin, the younger one, played around with college, but you know, he hasn't done anything from a completion point of view yet. But I stop and I talk about my boys because we're seeing the same thing of all males across gender, you know, not only in the state of Texas, but nationally. And so, you know, as I talk about my frustrations with my boys, and I mean, you know, they're great. As far as other problems, there could be lots of other things that we don't have. So, we've got to find a way to get male students to stay in the pipeline. We've somehow got to figure out how to engage them, and this is not white males, black males, red ones or pink ones or whatever. It's all of them, and so this is a big issue. College-ready students persist at a much higher rate than non-college ready students. If you look along the bottom of this, you can see this is broken into community college students on the 2 bars on the left and 4 years on the right. And the dark green is graduated. The medium green is persisting, they're still enrolled. And then the lighter color is non-completers. So college readiness is a major issue, you know, and I'm pointing these things out because if you start looking at that of the 100 8th graders, we only get 54 of them to go to high school, and then you have a group of them that are not college ready, getting to 60% is problematic. I went ahead and by the way, this slide was presented at as the major. Much of these slides were presented as the major policy presentation at the coordinating board last Thursday. I pulled out just some of the main slides. If you want to go back and see the whole thing, Rex and Jarrell Booker and Kristen Kramer, other people at the coordinating board, did the whole presentation. But you know, college ready, enter college without having to take Dev Ed is basically cut and dry. This slide goes in, and this is ACT, and it's students who demonstrated the college readiness benchmark for math and the various math courses they took. And bottom line is you've got to take 4 years of math to be college ready. And I mean, it's not the coordinating board saying that. It's just basically fact, and this is the results from what ACT has put together. And this is the 2015 graduating class, so this is most recent. This is college completion rates for students who did a more rigorous high school curriculum. You can see that if you only take college algebra, only 12% of those students complete. You take geometry, algebra 2, but if you take the 4-year sequence, including pre-calculus, you get up to 55%. And then it's the same way on science. The more science you take, the greater the chances of completing college. And so that's a little bit of back information, and Danny asked me to put those in there because of, well, you got to blame it on somebody, Danny. But no, it really and truly is important to the conversation because of groups like this getting together. It's a continuum. It's not public ed and higher ed and that kind of conversation. It's all of us. And it's not high school and then community college and then university. We've got to find a way to build a pipeline and make the pipeline work for all students. The 60 by 30 plan was endorsed by the governor. This is his comment, and it talks about the strength of the Texas economy as our workforce. Skilled, educated workforce gives Texas a competitive advantage. You know, if we're going to be robust in the coming years. The governor has also put together what is called the Tri-Agency Workforce Initiative, to where he has laid out a series of charges for the 3 commissioners of the Texas Workforce Commission, the Texas Education Agency, and then us, the coordinating board. And right now it's a listening tour that's going around the state and facilitating a conversation of what does it take to help make the economy of Texas robust and dynamic. Don?
That listening tour will be here in Dallas next week on the 11th of May.
Yeah. I know I've got the address in my email. Where's it being hosted at? Do you remember?
I can't tell you right now.
AT&T, I knew that, yes. And so the 3 commissioners will be there. I will also be there. Hey, little sidebar, y'all. And see how I'm doing? I'm great on time. The listening tour is tentatively scheduled to be in El Paso on May 20th. And my wife and I are going on vacation. So whenever I get off work, that Friday, we were planning on going to New Mexico. And, you know, those of y'all that don't know me, you know, I work in Austin during the week, but then we have a house up here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And so what I suggested to my wife was she could drop me off at Love Field. I could fly to El Paso, do the meeting, jump on a plane when the meeting's over, go to Albuquerque, and she could leave from Love Field and drive to Albuquerque, because there's a piece of art we're going to buy over there and we want to bring it back. You know, we need the truck. Man, I didn't get much mileage out of that one. But I thought it was a great idea. Anyway, okay. Early on when we started talking about this plan, a lot of people started talking about, well, what about closing the gaps? And you know, closing the gaps is the plan that recently closed out this past December. And that plan was really and truly about access and getting students into college, and we made significant inroads in there, and so this builds on that. So now it's not only do we have to get them in college, we got to get them out of college. We got to get them to complete. There are 4 basic goals of the plan, and we've already talked about the first one. 60% of Texans age 25 to 34 will have a certificate or degree. So we've got to have them educated, ready to fill the jobs that we've already talked about, needed for the workforce. Completion. And this is not a cumulative completion goal. This is a per year goal. The per year goal, this is the last year of the plan, so it's 550,000 graduates that year. I forget what the number is now. I think it's about a little bit less than 300,000 now. I think 275 is the number. But so we got to get more students to complete. The third goal is marketable skills. And y'all, this is more than I think like in CTE, career and technical education, we always talk about knowledge, skills, and abilities. But I think it's about helping all students understand that they get skills in every course they take. And perhaps in history and government. Those classes, when they're learning about how our country came to be and how our government, our state functions, the U.S. government functions, this kind of stuff, they do a lot of word processing, and they learn how to write reports and stuff like that, right? Maybe they learn how to do research online. Maybe in government, they're doing some kind of statistical analysis. And so all of those are skills that we have to use to, we have to help students understand that they bring more to the table than perhaps I'm just, and I'm not making fun of, you know, I majored in English. Well, if you majored in English, well, what else did you do? And so we've got to help all students understand what skills they bring to the table. I think there's a lot of software programs out there. EMSI does labor market analysis. Burning Glass is another one. A lot of companies are getting into this where they're breaking job descriptions and resumes down, and they're trying to get it to a more macro level. And we're moving away from an economy where, I don't know, make up a title, sales manager, to where in the past perhaps a job like sales manager is this: you sell stuff, right? And if you were a sales manager, maybe you could sell anything, right? And today we're having more conversations about micro-credentialing. We're moving into the concept of badges, concept of just-in-time education. And so what comes to my mind is in the movie The Matrix, and I don't remember which one it was, if it was 1, 2, or 3, but in The Matrix where they need to escape, and all of a sudden there's a helicopter, and it's like, well, I don't know how to fly a helicopter, and it's like, well, here, let me download that for you. And I'm not real sure that we're ever going to get to that point in education, but we've got to find a way to help students capture the skills they need to move forward in a timely and efficient manner. And I think one of the big challenges is how do we, as educators, eventually encapsulate these things into degrees and credentials and all the kind of things that have always been important to higher ed. But, okay, the last one, student debt. Undergraduate student debt will not exceed 60% of the first-year wages for graduates of Texas public institutions. We know the cost of higher education is getting beat up in the U.S. press almost daily. We're fortunate in Texas, and I know we can get into quite a conversation there, but Texas has actually low-cost tuition compared to many states, and this goal is, this is pretty much where student debt is now. The goal is for it not to go higher, and we've got to help students understand and manage debt and understand the debt burden they're taking on as they go through their educational pursuits. And you know, if a student wants to be a elementary school teacher, there ought to be an affordable program out there, and then there also needs to be a level of education and understanding that if you pay $250,000 to get a college education to be an elementary school teacher, those two don't intersect. And or at least any salaries I've ever looked at for elementary school teachers. But we've got to, we can't let students get turned off of education, not enroll, not attend because of the cost of education. Okay, here is the race ethnicity distribution of Texas. This is from Murdoch, the former state demographer. This is where we are now. This is where we're projected to be in the future. We've got to help the diverse populations, because the diverse populations are going to be larger and a bigger portion of the customers who we serve. I think I've talked about the goals. The sum goal of the package, or all 4 goals combined, is that we've got to be able to communicate these 4 goals almost as an elevator speech. You know, the committee, when they put this plan together, could have came up with some big voluminous report that we couldn't walk away and talk about, but they really and truly focused on these 4 simple goals, and fairly straightforward, hopefully fairly understandable, fairly succinct. But then underneath the goals, there are strategies about how we get there. The importance of each step, each milestone, that we don't move from 2016 to 2030. I talked earlier about the 550,000 goal at the end of 2030. The sequence, the timeline is 6.4 million certificates and degrees over that time. And so it starts where we are today, and then it grows across the continuum. I already talked about marketable skills. It's all of those skill areas. And you know, sometimes when you're talking to employers, they talk about soft skills. And I've heard more than one employer say that they hire for technical skills and they fire for soft skills. But it's all of those kind of things that collectively make you who you are. You know, a little story I've told in public a couple of times. You'd almost have to understand my background and know more about me, but my grandfather was a farmer up in rural Oklahoma, and if you want to look it up, there's a little town called Terrell, Oklahoma that really doesn't exist anymore. But if the zombie apocalypse ever starts, I would really recommend you kind of go there, because like Terrell is over here and there's like nothing for 50 miles away. But my grandfather was a farmer, as I said, and so I was always around the cows and all that kind of stuff, and got some stuff on my shoes and that kind of stuff. And then we had this friend that was a truck driver, and he hauled bulls. And so my first job where I really got paid is I got to clean out the back of the bull wagons. I'm being very technically, politically correct up here. But this is back in 1974 when I was 14 years old. And I would go out there on Saturday morning and I would shovel the bull stuff out of the back of the trucks. And I forget what I got paid. Either got paid $7 or $14 to do this back in 1974. But I would go out there on Saturday morning and make 60 or 90 bucks or whatever. And I was a 14-year-old kid, and some of y'all have gray hair like Don Perry. You remember that back in 1974, that was real money. And anyway, so I point that out under this one because marketable skills, I still shovel, today in Austin, And so you never know what you're going to learn, when you're going to learn it, and how you're going to use it later. And we have to help everybody understand how to build a resume and how to package themselves and move forward. And little did I know when I was 14 years old that I would be using that 40 some odd years later. Of a 2012 national study, 88% of surveyed freshmen getting a better job, most important reason for attending college. Oh, hang on. There was a recent survey, I wish I could give you this one, but it talks about the gap of, they surveyed students about how marketable they were, and the student survey in the 80-90% range of yes, I can do this, yes, I can do that. Employers, about 20 to 30%. Big disconnect, big gap, and what students think where students think they are, and where business thinks they are. It talks about Texas could experience greater shortages in important fields if students' loan debt spike to the point to which a majority of students choose programs based entirely on potential income. You've got to have passion for what you do. If you don't have passion for what you do, you know, you're not going to want to get up every morning and go to work. I remember years ago, this was when I was at Tarrant, we were having a career fair one day, and a young woman came up to me, and it doesn't matter that she was female, it could be male or female, but this must have been like 1999, but computer and networking and all that stuff was real hot. Not that it's not hot now, but she goes, I want to be a Microsoft certified system engineer, because the computer industry was alive with certifications, and certifications could get you good jobs. And I believe her next comment was, I heard you can make $60,000 a year. And then her next statement was, what is it? and you know, yes, you've got to give her kudos for wanting a high-paying job, but we've got to help students understand that you have to have passion. You've got to go into career fields you want. Like I talked about earlier, I mean, if we're going to be successful in achieving this plan, we've got to have good third grade teachers and fourth grade teachers. We've got to have students engaged and have them learning and moving forward long before they get to high school or college. You know, here's a bit of a matrix, and I know that y'all, from the seats y'all set in as we move into 6 months from the next session, give or take a little bit, about state funding, and I know Don Perry's doing a presentation, but you know, hopefully the state, through funding and students being financially informed, time to degree, literacy, efficiency at the university and colleges, and you know, y'all, dollars are becoming more and more scarce and more problematic. In my job, I'm a member of what's known as the National Council of State Directors of Community Colleges. I have to always stop and think about that one. And we were at a meeting recently up in Chicago, and the person that has more or less my job in Wyoming, his name's Jim. And we were going around the room and introducing ourselves as the meeting was convening. And he goes, well, Wyoming's been hit pretty hard by the oil and gas thing, and we're looking at a $4 million budget shortage. And so he made a few other comments about the number of colleges they have and students and stuff like that. And so then it gets to be my turn, and I go, well, you know, not to try to one-up Jim or anything, but you know, in Texas we have 725,000 community college students, about 1.5 million students in the whole pipeline, the higher ed pipeline as a whole. And I commented that Lone Star College is the largest college in the state with about 95,000 students. A friend of mine, Warren Nichols, is from Tennessee. The whole state of Tennessee has about 95,000 students. And the projected budget change from where they thought they were at the end of last session in the legislature to where they think they are going in is about $4 billion. And so while Wyoming has 4 million, and you know, there's not a whole lot of people in Wyoming, there's a bunch of us here, but that's kind of the change in landscape because of oil and gas prices recently. Bill Hammond, if you're in and around Austin, you know Mr. Hammond. He speaks often of education. That was very politically correct, y'all. That's the nuts and bolts of it, and I think it's very important. I think it's a very straightforward, simplistic plan, but I think it packs a powerful message. I think the committee really did a phenomenal job in putting the plan together. So with that, questions?